Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tech Tuesday, the RE/MAX Business Builder Series. I'm so happy to have you all this morning. I see the numbers flowing in, so thanks for joining us this morning. And we're going to go ahead and go Facebook Live right now at the same time, so let's invite our Facebook Live audience in with us, and then we will get started. So I want to welcome all of you officially. So my name is Michelle Hoyt. I'm a manager of education and development for RE/MAX INTEGRA. This is an independent region of RE/MAX. We are comprised of the Midwest and New England in the US and the Ontario Atlantic region. So that is our North American footprint. But we welcome all of you from RE/MAX. I know some of you are joining us from the company-owned region, so hello and shout out to all of you. Let us know where you're tuning in from this morning. But we have a lot to talk about, and I'm really excited to introduce my very special guest. Before we do, I just want to make mention we are broadcasting live here on Zoom as well as on Facebook Live. So if you'd like to ask questions to Brandon and to Reed, I highly encourage that. They want to hear from you too. So I will pause and I'll keep an eye on those as we go through all of this. So, oh, look, we have a friend from Orlando, Florida. Hi, Andy from Connecticut. Look at all these friendly, shiny, happy people joining us. This is awesome. So, all right, so we're going to go ahead and get started because we have some very special guests that are joining us that are dedicating an hour with us to share their best practices. So let's start with Reed. Reed, please introduce yourself. Tell us about you, why you got in real estate, your market, and anything else you want to share with the audience.
Well, as Michelle mentioned, my name is Reed Martin. I've been selling real estate or working in real estate since September 2007, or as I like to call it, the beginning of the end. So I just surpassed 13 years about 2 weeks ago. I actually started in real estate right out of college. Got to graduate from Indiana University. Been doing real estate, like I said, for 13 years. When I first started, I actually only did commercial properties. I worked for a developer that developed shopping centers in front of Walmart super centers. And we had locations in Indiana, Kentucky, and Illinois, and Ohio. And then we wound up in, after some small changes, we wound up and joined the RE/MAX office here in Jeffersonville, Indiana, which is the Louisville, Kentucky market. So licensed in both states and able to help people on both sides of the river. Since joining RE/MAX, I've seen tremendous growth in our business, and it's been one of the best decisions I've made. So happy to be here.
And can you tell everyone about your team and what the makeup is of your team?
Sure. So our team currently has 7 members. We have several people that are actually going through the process of getting licensed, so hoping to add on 2 or 3 more here very soon. My wife is also an agent with me. So she's only licensed in Kentucky, so she works with buyers in Kentucky. As a team leader, I work on the listings, commercial properties, and then we actually have a property management side as well. We've got a client care coordinator who actually is licensed in Indiana. She sold real estate for about 4 years, but she liked doing more of the transaction stuff. And she's actually been on some of your Tuesday events going over Bouge about a month or so ago. So she's awesome. She's been very helpful to us. And we've hired 2 buyer's agents recently that are both licensed in Indiana. So they started in, I think, June and July, were there 2 months. We've got one of them that has already closed 3 transactions and has 4 more under contract. Michael, who started in July, he's got 3 under contract and should have his first 2 closings by the end of this month. So it's been fun to see them really get a hold of the situation. As I mentioned, I've got property management side, so I've got about 80 rental units that I manage, and I have a friend of mine who's a local fireman, but he's also a licensed agent in Indiana that helps me with the property management side. He does a lot of the day-to-day stuff for that. And just as we've grown some more of the marketing stuff, we want to make sure we're on top of it. So we hired somebody who was actually an intern through Indiana University Southeast as part of her school. So we brought her on part-time to help with our marketing. So she's our marketing director for now. Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have her up to full-time as we grow. So it's been fun to see everything grow in such a short amount of time. So we started the team about 3 years ago, and we've really started growing here this past year. And then, as I mentioned, we've got 2 more people going through school to get their license. 2 of them should be completed. Well, no, all 3 of them should be completed in October. 2 of them will be licensed in Kentucky. The third one is actually my sister, who is in Columbus, Ohio market. So we're actually going to open an expansion team there. And so after she kind of gets her feet under her and gets through the normal learning process that we go through, so hopefully in a couple of years, we'll get her start recruiting and start growing that team as well. So we're on the cusp of a lot of growth, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, that's fantastic. So, and I work with Reed and his office in particular on a regular basis, and you have definitely grown, and it's exciting to see. So I can't wait to see what's next for you. All right. Well, thank you. So Brandon, please introduce yourself and tell everyone about you and anything you'd like them to know.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Brandon Doyle from Maple Grove, Minnesota. I actually graduated in 2008 with a degree in real estate. I did commercial appraisal for a while and then switched over and joined my father in the business. So I've been with RE/MAX for about 6 years now. Love it here. It's great. We did grow our team to about 6 people, but last year we decided to go in a different direction and kind of focus on our own business and building deeper relationships versus buying leads. So kind of we've downsized. We went back from 6 down to just the 2 of us. And then we have an administrator.
Hey, Brandon, I think your sound cut out. You're on mute. There you go. Okay, you still there? Okay, good. All right. So you know what? I find it really interesting. First of all, it's very impressive and interesting that you actually you formalize your real estate education in a big way with your actually getting a degree in it, a bachelor's and a master's. Can you give us just a quick 30-second synopsis of what that was like versus what you've been learning in the business and at licensing courses?
Yeah, so they're completely different. I mean, I did undergrad, and that was kind of more of a general focus on real estate, property management, finance side, a little bit of brokerage. So I'm still really involved at St. Cloud State. I do mentoring for the students. I've actually brought a couple of people into the business that way. And then for the master's program was just something I wanted to do. I felt like I wasn't utilizing a lot of the skills I'd learned in undergrad, and so I wanted to brush up on that. And it was really good for networking as well, because now in the area, I know a lot of the commercial brokers, and they have residential needs. They'll send the people my way, and I do the same for them. And in general, I'm just super interested in the realm of real estate. So something that was fun for me to do.
That's great. Well, congratulations. That's very impressive. All right. So Reed, let's go back to you. When did you first hear about FIRST? And how did you go about educating yourself about it?
So I heard about FIRST, I guess it was 2 years ago at the RE/MAX convention when they mentioned they were I don't know if they had acquired it at that point or if they were in the process of getting it all finalized. I was really intrigued at that point. Wanted to start learning more. Unfortunately, didn't spend the time I needed to at the RE/MAX convention at the beginning of this year, before everything got shut down. Got to go there, and they had the booth on the FIRST app where you could actually go and talk to people and see how it worked. So that's really what piqued the interest, and we've had that as a priority for wanting to get involved with it. Didn't get involved with this as fast as I want, so we've only been working on it for probably 30 days or so. So we're still relatively new, but it's with a shortage of inventory right now, it's made a big difference on being able to try and have those communications with the right people, so that way we're competing with fewer people before they're actually out soliciting other agents. And so that's been helpful. We're going in the right direction.
Sure. So your main motivation for signing up for it was?
Seller leads. So where it's at.
Okay. So the elevator pitch for First, for those of you that are just hearing about it for the first time, or maybe you're not quite sure, is, and Brandon can speak more to it because he was part of a very unique group when it first came out, but ultimately it's going to help you leverage your database to identify who's going to be most likely to sell and move. I mean, that's really as simple as it is. Now you're probably wondering how. That's really interesting. It analyzes your contacts on your phone and from over 700 different database points. It's kind of crazy, really cool, a little bit concerning maybe to some of you, but privacy, I think, online is something that is not so, it's more the exception, I guess, these days, but there's different ways to go about it. Brandon's going to be a better expert to talk about what went on behind the scenes with all of that. But I think it's important you understand. So Reed and his team is probably where a lot of you are, is that you're just getting started with First, or maybe you don't know where to go next and you want to, or you want to learn about it. So that's okay. I mean, you have to start somewhere. All right. So thank you, Reed. Brandon, talk to us about your background with First and how you first heard about it and got involved with it.
Yeah, so I actually met Jess at a Tech Edge conference in St. Louis. He was one of the co-founders. And then from there, I think I met them again out at Inman and really was just very critical, I guess, of what they're doing. And, you know, because there's a lot of companies in the space that say that they do predictive analytics. And I had been burned by one in the past. And so I just basically was like, well, prove it. You know, you say you're a data scientist and I'm a data nerd. And we kind of went off on about like what really drives sales and kind of what the market is like. And they had this kind of grand idea of what you would be able to get from your database. And I kind of brought them back down to the realm of, you know, how the real world works. But they appreciated that I was so critical of the product and gave them constructive feedback. So I was on the early beta team. That was back when it was like $1,000 a month. And then I think it dropped to like 500. Now it's like 39, so super cheap. But then from that, I've been down to their office in Durham a few times, North Carolina, to do some product development consulting and really develop what became the app that we have now. So that's been really cool, and hoping to do more of that in the future to really refine what the product could be.
Sorry, I was on mute. So that's fantastic. So yeah, so I think it's amazing that you're coming at this from a whole behind the scenes perspective and even contributing to where the product is today. So that's pretty impressive. So let me ask you, so Brandon, in your own words, how would you describe what First is to your peers watching right now?
Yeah, so First is an app that takes all of your contacts that you may not even know that you have. So they're pulling from your email, they're pulling from your phone primarily, and then you can upload CSV files. From there, they basically merge the data, clean it, so identify properties that correspond with these people, flag incorrect information, weed out the real estate agents, that type of thing. And then within the app, what you have is basically a curated selection that's prioritized based on likelihood to move. And it's the only product in the marketplace where the data has been proven. And so at the end of the year, they took their data set and they compared it to who actually moved, and it was accurate. So that is really cool. It really sets them apart. And then within the app, they've got kind of like a swipe set up. So instead of like a traditional CRM where it's a list, you would swipe through and you see that person's picture, their contact information, information about the property, like picture of the house. So it's really good for that cognitive, like just jog your memory, like, oh yeah, John, I remember John. He lives down the road. I helped him buy that house. So it kind of gets you to think of those people, prompts you to follow up with them. Of course, if you don't actually do any of the follow-up, it's not going to do anything for you. But then the other feature they've added more recently that's pretty cool is this, it's like a network efficiency. And so that came from like, let's see how good agents really are. And so originally the way it worked was like, okay, send over all your sales and then we'll send you back a list of the sales in your database. So we're going to compare them and see what the percentage is. And that was really eye-opening because we were finding people that was like, oh wow, I had no idea that person moved. And like, I'd actually follow up with them. They just never even bothered to tell me. So that is a really cool feature that they added. But yeah, they're continuing to add new features and make it more user friendly.
So Brandon has shared some screenshots of his own, but I'm going to share my screen, and Brandon and Reed, I'd like you both to weigh in on kind of the way you're using. I'm going to share my screen in just a second here. And let me pull this up. So hopefully everyone can see this. Can you confirm, Reed and Brandon, that you can see my screen?
Yeah, so I'm
Okay.
using a mobile device, so it's tiny for me, but
okay, no, that's fine. No worries. It's probably really small. Excuse my messy desktop, everyone. So I should have paid attention to that. All right, so there's a little bit of a delay in what I'm doing here on the screen, but so one of the things that now I have a demo account, but I'm getting alerts and notifications, push notifications from First on a regular basis that says, hey, you better connect with this person. You might want to pay attention to this person. So can you talk through, we'll start with you, Reed, some of the things that you've been receiving and kind of how you're working through that?
Well, as we get notifications and they rank them on that, have that star rating, 1 to 3 stars, since we're kind of new at it, we put our focus on, the 3-star people that have come through. I don't do anything overly complex. So whenever we kind of start our initial, see, there's the 3 stars. Whenever we reach out to them, I just use what we would call a forward script. So for people that aren't familiar, so we ask about family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. So whenever I initially reach out to them, I actually don't ask them much about real estate. I just ask them about them and how they're doing and try and reconnect. And then as you're asking them questions, it's amazing how people reciprocate those same questions. So whenever, certainly with everything going on, how are you and your family doing? What's your all, situation with schools? Are you guys back in school, or are you guys doing the virtual learning academy? How that's going, and just checking in on them. And then, then you get into questions on, how's work going? Are you guys working remotely, or are you back into the office? We've talked to a lot of people, and we've actually found that while people, complain quite a bit about having to go into the office, they actually, now that they've been away from it for so long, they actually miss, being around some of those other people and those other, interactions. And so just kind of asking those questions, and then people, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times will reciprocate similar questions like, how's work going? How's the business going? What are we looking at? And so trying to just go down that path is how we've tried to be intentional about it. Then the way we continue to follow up with them, it's not something that happens after one phone call. So if we get so what we've done with some of the people that we've been reaching out to, we call it a lead tracker. It's just a well thought out Excel spreadsheet, and we try and consistently follow up with those people. The people that we categorize as what I would call a B lead. So anybody that's looking to maybe move in the next 90 days, we just try and touch base with them, twice a month. We do it on the week of the 1st and the week of the 15th, and trying to have that consistent communication with them. We're not quite there yet, but the goal is to actually start mailing them some information just about listings. So we have like a home staging tips thing, and sending stuff like that, or just some consistent market statistics and stuff like that. Show how, in our market, if we look at a week by week basis, we have more properties that are going under contract than new listings coming on the market, and just trying to share that information and really let them make their own judgments on what they're wanting to do. We never specifically ask like, hey, have you thought about selling your house or anything like that? We just give them market information and let them make their own decisions.
That's fantastic. And, think about the hours that it would have taken for you to just start cold calling your database, and not knowing where to start and who to call, how much this has helped you, and kind of move that process along. Just so everyone knows, First is free for the first 90 days, and then it's $456 for the first year. So I just saw the charge come through for mine. So that's why I know exactly how much it is. But I mean, it's interesting that Brandon said it was about $1,000 a month when it first came out. So wow, what a great investment to really get some intelligence behind your database. Now, as with anything, please use this information carefully. You want to be sensitive to, again, privacy issues. Some are more sensitive to that than others. But that's fantastic, Reed. I mean, you really nailed it when you said you're talking to them about things that are just important to them. You're talking about schools and you're talking about their family, and that's what's really important. And just checking in, hey, it's been a while, right? So I'm sure you've seen some pretty positive feedback from that, and you're just there to help them. And I love that approach. So Brandon, how about you? What have you been doing on a regular basis? I can take this off the screen and pull up your slides if that's easier for you. Let me go ahead and do that.
Sure.
I want everyone to get a quick glimpse of this. So you go in and you set up your MLS ID and everything else. So I will take this off the screen and then I will share your slides or your images right here. So I've got, and I apologize everyone, I would go in presentation mode, but Zoom doesn't like that on Facebook Live and it'll make the screen go dark. So we'll start with this first group up here. So if you want to talk everyone through, let me make this a little bigger. And so everyone can see that. So there you go.
I'll get nice and close to the phone here.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You're on the phone. Here, I'll make it bigger. How's that?
It's all right. I memorized what the app looked like. Come up with the design. So basically on the home screen, what we're looking at is, on the top, we're going to have our recommendations for the day. And so you would swipe through there. If you see someone that's not a good fit, then what I do is I hide them. If they're an agent, I would mark them as such. And then, kind of scroll down, we've got our list of groups. So kind of one of the newer features that the app has now, based on kind of feedback from users, is that contact tracking. So kind of using, if you subscribe to any coach, there would be Tom Ferry, for example, 40 contacts equals 1 sale. Multiply how many sales you want to make in a year. So 40 times, on 50 sales, that'd be 2,000. You divide it back out. And you determine how many contacts you need to make a year. And so what I've done is plug that in. You can see there in the middle, top, my goal was 20 contacts for the week. And I've gone in and logged 17 so far at the time I took the screenshot. So the week wasn't over. But that's kind of good for accountability. On the right, we've got our groups. So sorting people, similar to if you use Contactually or any other CRM, very similar to that. So that's really great for if you're doing an event. So outside of real estate, I'm super into smart home technology, paintball, and craft beer. And so I can sort by how I know people. So if I'm doing a beer tasting at my house and we're going to open up some expensive beers and share them, I can just go to that and say, okay, well, here are my craft beer people. Oh, it looks like you can see the ratings. And if you only have space for 4 people, guess which people are going to be invited? It's the most likely to move one. So that's been really cool. It's nice to be able to sort your database. Otherwise, sometimes your database can just be overwhelming if you're seeing every contact and you've got leads mixed in with family, mixed in with past clients. You're really changing gears a lot. So if you categorize, that just allows you to focus on one particular group, and your follow-up is probably going to be very similar when you're talking to those type of people. And then on the left, it looks like we have a network efficiency. And so you can tell I'm a pretty early user. That feature was released about 1.5 years ago. And so that's how far my sales go back. They actually have a partnership with one of the large data aggregators in order to populate that. And so it is very accurate as far as grabbing your sales. It goes by your MLS ID number. So I'm on a team, and I'm often listed as the co-listing agent or the co-selling agent. And so occasionally it's not getting everything, but it does a pretty good job. And I would say that number is fairly accurate. And then it's probably on the next slide. I've got my contacts there. So when we click in on the left, that's just like what we talked about with the 3 stars. So if your stars are filled in, that means that the address is verified. If the stars are outlined, then they are not. I didn't even realize that until I was giving them some feedback, but I'll let you in on a really good secret. So originally we would get this as an Excel spreadsheet, or otherwise when there was a desktop version, there was more stars and it would show the percentage. For privacy reasons, that's changed, but the default sorting on this is actually highest to lowest. So that person at the very top is the highest percentile likely to move, going down, and 3 stars is like top 20% or something like that. So really, if you're looking for quick hits, your 3 stars is where you want to go. Obviously, you don't want to neglect everyone, because even if they're a 1 star, they could still refer your business. And then on the right there, I've got like my missed deals. And one, that's a real slap in the face when you see someone sold their house and you didn't get an opportunity. So that makes me like motivated to actually call people and follow up, because a lot of times what will happen is you'll see names on that home screen, or even if you're using a CRM, to pop up and you're like, oh, Bob, I saw him 2 weeks ago. He would for sure use me. And the reality might be that what you thought was 2 weeks was really 3 months. And so just following the prompts, whether it's your CRM or you're using First, just do the follow-up. Who cares if you follow up with someone too much? And it doesn't need to be too aggressive. You could do like a text, Facebook message, like right on their wall. Doesn't need to be a phone call necessarily. So a soft touch there. But one critical thing about the app in its current state, it is pulling sales that are not correct. So Deanna is listed there twice. She hasn't actually sold her house. She lives in a condo building, and everybody else in the condo building is selling their houses. So she came up like 5 times. So after I took that screenshot, I went in and removed those sales, and so actually adjusted the number higher. I think right now I'm at like 87% network efficiency, which apparently is really good. I think they said the average was like 60 something. So that's kind of cool. Make me feel good. But I did follow up with Deanna anyways, because like, hey, everyone in her building is selling. There's got to be a reason for that. She lives in a condo here in Minneapolis. So like, I'll let you figure out why those people might want to be moving.
Well,
But yeah, that's pretty much how I use the app.
This is really interesting. First of all, your stories, I'm sure, are very relatable to everyone watching. You've all run into someone in the grocery store that said, oh, I didn't know you were still in real estate. I just sold my house last year. Embarrassing moments, right? You could all write books about that. But this is just an incredible way to just kind of stay in their lives without just being in front of them all the time. Can you explain a little bit more, Brandon, more the science behind this, the 3-star system? What data is it looking at? What makes it, what type of behaviors is it looking for from your database?
Yeah, so it's proprietary, and I can't go in too much detail, but what I'll tell you about real estate in general is that, people move based on the equity position in their home, things like marriage, divorce. Actually, I have a good story about that one. Birth of children, job change, things like that, length of time in home. And so you take all those things, you put them together, and you kind of got you've got their ranking system, and there's a lot more behind it that's pretty interesting, like where they get the data from. But yeah.
Well, we want to hear that story. You can't say that and then not tell us.
Oh yeah, so the divorce story. So I've had a few really interesting stories since using First. The first one, I guess, would be that I had a college friend pop up like the first week of using the app. And I was like, all right, I'm a beta tester. I'm going to really test the system. And no matter what it says, I'm just going to do it. And this was a guy I hadn't talked to in years. And I was like, he probably doesn't even remember who I am. So I called him up and said, hey, I was curious what you're up to, man. It's been a long time. You want to grab lunch or something? And we did. And we caught up, and it was fun. I didn't really think much of it. Then about a month later, he called me and said, hey, we're ready to move. We're going to list our house and buy a new one. So I got 2 sales within the first month just by like doing what they said. So that was pretty cool. The other one was that it pulled up a past client, a very recent sale, and it said, hey, this person's like super likely to move. And I was like, there's no way. They just bought. They literally just bought. Like the data's got to be old. It's got to be pulling from like when they did their credit inquiry before. I was like, maybe they're refinancing or something. But yeah, I ended up talking to them, and they were getting divorced, and the judge actually mandated that we be the real estate agent for the sale. So I was like, well, that's interesting. So yeah, it's predicted divorce, and also one of my family members was selling, and and then I saw them in our office like a week later, and I was like, hey, what the heck? They were with another agent, but it is what it is.
Those are really good stories. Reed, how about you? When you've reached out to the people that have shown up on your list, first of all, were you surprised by any of them? What stories might you share that are similar to Brandon's?
I don't necessarily have, I don't have any stories that are as good as that. You know, what I'm seeing is, you know, age range for where a lot of my friends are. It's very common for them, or what we've found is that a lot of them are moving out of that first home and looking to upgrade into the larger second home. You know, so you mentioned having kids and, you know, that sort of thing, or as, you know, kids are growing. You know, one of my favorite things that I tell about our house, you know, my wife and I's first house was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. It was only about this big, and it was amazing how much space a 30-pound little girl takes up. You know, we're seeing a lot of people in our system that are looking to make that move from their first home to, or either, you know, that second home or that forever home. And so that's where we've been watching. The biggest challenge we've run into, or the biggest concern that most of them have had is, okay, if I put my house up for sale and we can sell it in a few days, like a lot of these other properties, well, then where do I go in that meantime? And so we're trying to come up with some solutions for that problem. And we've talked to a lot of people about doing, you know, put their house up for sale, but it's contingent upon you finding a house that you want to move into. We're trying to do things like that to make it work. And you know, some people have been more than others on doing it that way. You know, we're trying to be a little creative, or, you know, can you short term, you know, have a family member that you can move in with while we're looking, or something like that. You know, a lot of people don't want to do that, which is understandable, but, you know, we're trying to think outside the box a little bit, because, you know, I don't want somebody to rush into, you know, a house that they may not absolutely be in love with, exactly what they want, because of those short windows. And so that's been a challenge.
So Reed and I were having an interesting discussion before this session started about the state of the union and his market. As with a lot of you, is the shortage of inventory. So can you talk through some of the challenges you're having, like such as the number of active buyers versus whatever inventory may or may not be available?
Sure. So, you know, in the Louisville, Kentucky market, and I think it's pretty consistent with the rest of the country. You know, for the past probably 5 or 6 years, we've hovered around, you know, 2.5 to 3 months supply of inventory on the market at any given time, which is still a pretty strong seller's market. In the past 30 days, we've actually shrink down to less than 1 month supply. Since March, we've been trying to watch it at least every couple of weeks. We consistently have more properties going under contract than new properties coming on the market. And so that is really starting to put a strain on the number of listings. Our buyers agents have, newest buyers agents have somewhere 5 to 10 buyers agent. My wife, who's been doing it for about 4 years, she's close to 30 pre-approved buyers that are ready to go. And it's just a matter of finding the right thing. You know, we've even we've recently started trying to reach out to some expires that have happened in the past year or two, you know, to see if we can put ourselves in a situation where they're not having to compete against, you know, 10 or 15 other offers. You know, try and go that like, hey, the market's really hot. You weren't able to sell it a couple of years ago. Do you still have interest in selling? Trying to do some stuff like that with, if buyers have a particular neighborhood that they're wanting to go through, we call them, we have a buyer letters and sending out letters to people, trying to find a way to meet one-on-one, with somebody looking to sell their home that doesn't have it on the market, trying to do things different. Our sellers that we have been able to get to put their homes on the market, we've tried to be a little bit more patient on the seller's review and offer. Sellers are willing to give you an extra couple of days to get people through. We've had situations where we've had 7 to 20 offers come in on a property. I think it's frustrating, and I know it's been frustrating for our buyers agents when, a property goes up on the market and, their buyer is at work and stuck and can't do anything, and it sells in, 2 hours,
Right. You can't even get a postcard out, right?
right. So, are the sellers, not given the best opportunity to get the most buyers in as quickly as possible? What's the difference in 6 hours and 3 days?
Wow. Well, that's quite challenging. It's almost like you're playing a matchmaking game. You go to your database, who's got a home that would meet my buyer's needs, but at the same time, they're going to need a place to go too. And I know you're all dealing with that. So there's a couple questions that have come in. One more question about the cost of first. Again, it's free for the first 90 days. So there's no reason not to try this. And then after that, it's around $456 a year. So a lot more affordable than when Brandon first heard about it, for sure. Let me see, there's a couple other questions. Does this interact with Boosh for drip campaigns, or is it done within the first app only? So Paul, that's a really good question, but keep in mind, your Boosh database and your first database should be an exact match. In fact, what it's going to do is, now that the key is you have to have, it pulls from your phone contacts, is the initial upload, if you would. So you kind of need to maybe play a little bit of, have some time set aside to get your database on your phone to match up with Boosh. I know that the development teams are paying close attention to creating an integration someday. They do have some other priorities ahead of time, but that is a really good question. So, or, in general, with any CRM besides Boosh. So that's a really good question. So Lynn is saying, I have over 1,500 contacts on my phone. Will this software search all 1,500, or is there a limit? I'm not aware of one. Reed or Brandon, are you?
Yeah, let me jump in on the last two questions. So first with the Boosh, with Remax results, we're on Tribus, not Boosh, but I'm very familiar with how Boosh works and how basically every CRM works. So what you'll do in the first app is you right away sync your phone, sync your email. If you're on Gmail, that's easy. Otherwise, if you're Exchange, just contact them. They can get that figured out for you. So that's going to get all of your contacts in one, and then let them do the data merge. Let them figure out, it pulls in all the little pictures and the properties, and you're going to have some wonky information in there, but you can do a data export from the first app, and then you'll get an email. From there, you can clean that up a little bit. It's going to be a lot easier. And then whatever platform you're on, whether it's Boosh or Tribus, you can upload that CSV file. You may need to move some of the columns around, use one of their templates, but they're really good at helping with that. And as far as the limit, it's 5,000 contacts. So right now, I think I'm around 1,400 right now. But honestly, less is more. So if you can scrub your list ahead of time and get rid of old leads, because that's not really what the system is designed for. It's more based on relationships. You're going to have a lot more success, and you're going to be less frustrated. So if you get prompted every day to follow up with someone and you're like, who the heck is Tim? I don't know Tim. And you spend all your time looking up, figure out who Tim is, that's not really a good use of time. Whereas if it's a very well curated list and it's people that you know, and you get that facial recognition, you're going to be more likely to use the app because you're going to see early success. And honestly, once you get that first extra sale, so when we were paying $1,000 a month, and then it went down to 500, it was still worthwhile. My ROI was still way higher than it was on Zillow because, those two sales added up to quite a bit. And those were really quick hits. I think that first year I added 4. And these are honestly 4 sales that I wouldn't have had without using the first app. And we have a very rigorous follow-up schedule. So we were using Contactually at the time. We do these client events. We do all sorts of stuff. But there are people that fall through the cracks. And so this helps you go beyond that 150 limit of that, Dunbar has come up with, and extend kind of into, you think, like maybe previous careers, those people, college alumni, someone you might have a deep connection with, but there's been a very long gap of time between when you were, top of mind with them and seeing them every day to now. This can really help bring those people back. And so it's a great system. But yeah, as far as data importing and exporting goes, they made it 1,000% better. When it first came out, it was not that great. It was all CSV, and if it was formatted incorrectly, it wouldn't work right, and we had duplicates, and there was a lot of work that went into that. There is a very particular subscription service that they are paying for that they pass on to use called Nihilus, and it's like the best of the best as far as grabbing contacts and putting them in and finding that duplication. So kudos to them for spending the money on something that works and not trying to reinvent the wheel.
Well, on behalf of RE/MAX, I want to thank you, Brandon, for being part of that beta group and getting it to where it is today. So that's fantastic. I'm not familiar with Homebot, like as far as the back end and how that works. Do either of you, know what Joe's asking about Homebot?
Yeah, Joe, great question. So we have Homebot for all of the RE/MAX results agents. I'm not sure if that's something that all of INTEGRA or all of LLC has, but it's something that we use, and it's great. So very similar concept. What you would do is export from First or whatever database you have, then format it again to the correct template, if you will, for Homebot, and then upload it there. So First has been huge for us in that regard, because there's a lot of people I know that I'm really good friends with, but I don't actually know their address. And so First is able to help fill in that information, and they just pull from tax records. And so you can really quickly go through and verify. There was a couple of them where it was like, okay, that's an investment property, or that was their parents' house, or they've moved since then, and you can make the changes. But yeah, it was a really good starting point, because of the 400 or so people that we have that I consider my true sphere of influence, a good portion were missing addresses. And so with First, that helped us a ton. And then bringing that over to Homebot just kind of brings it all together. There's no direct integration between the two at this time. I'm sure it could be done through an API, but to be honest, like with real estate tech, everything is changing in each of these products so often that it's really difficult for developers to maintain APIs, because if you're getting a feed from one source and then they change how the data works, that has really negative impacts on how your database is maintained. And so you really want to have one source of truth. And for us, that is our CRM, First, and now Homebot. Those are the 3 most up-to-date. And then another thing I did too is I took that export and then I re-added it back into Exchange and also into my phone, so that when I pull someone up on my phone, it matches what's up in my email, it matches First, it matches Homebot. Because what I found was that it was all different all over. And it took a lot of hours to do that, but it was worth it. It's paying dividends right now.
That's awesome. So there's actually a question from the Facebook audience. So hi, Dan. It says, so many of the contacts on my phone and emails are other agents. Any automatic way to sort it out on First?
I assume that I should answer that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still learning.
No, it's okay. Reed and I are like, Brandon, back to you.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so it's supposed to automatically detect agents. It does a pretty good job, but otherwise just go through and mark as agents. It's cumbersome at first, but it's not the end of the world. There was a desktop version at one point, it was a little bit faster. That may or may not be coming back in the future. We'll see. But it's not that difficult to do within the app. If you just like every day look through your 5 and you discard agent, then eventually they will all be gone and you won't have to worry about it. So that was one of my concerns very early on with the app. Like one of my biggest concerns actually, because they were saying, oh, I miss all these sales. I was like, yeah, that guy's an agent. That guy lives in Florida. And so now it actually is geographically based too. You don't have people show up that don't live by you. So that was a good change too. So.
No, this is all good. Thank you so much. So let's talk a little bit about what you had, where you're getting seller leads from, and kind of how this can all tie in. So Reed, prior to First, where were the majority of your seller leads coming from, and how did you go about getting those?
So most of our seller leads came from either past clients or we called it top 50. So we figure out our 50 people most likely to send us business. And we have intentional conversations with them every month. Sometimes it's phone call or text. Sometimes it is, going out to dinner or lunch or having coffee or something along those lines. Sometimes we try to mix in some fun stuff. So we do pop buys. So like in October every year, we pumpkins over to them and drop them off at their door, try and have a conversation. It's not just, setting a pumpkin on their front porch and like that's enough. Like you want to actually try and have a conversation with them and try and go when they may or may be home. At least, even as simple as sending them a text like, hey, something's on your front porch for you. Make sure you check it out. And then usually we get a response from them whenever they get there, like, oh yeah, that's great. Thanks for dropping that off. Around Christmas time, we do like $1 rolls of wrapping paper that you can get. We usually have to go around and rate a bunch of targets that have them for $1. So it's not a huge amount of money that we're spending on it. And just try and have those intentional conversations consistently every month. And that's where most of our leads came from. We use Sync as well, but most of those are buyer leads, not seller leads.
So there's drilling going on, construction nearby. I apologize, everyone. So Reed, have you had any luck in the past with farming, particularly just farming a neighborhood with postcards, and if so, how much were you spending?
So I've actually never done farming. I like working with people that already know me. So we're just really good about being in touch with those people. Our sphere of influence people, I keep it a little bit more generic than a lot of people. To me, it's, if you saw them at the grocery store, would you feel comfortable going up and saying hi to them? And those are people that are all on this list. So we market to all of those people, and we send out the sensation postcards to them every month, and we try to get in touch with them at least once a quarter. That number grows. That SOI number is getting pretty large. I think my list is somewhere around 300 or 400 right now. So it takes time to get through those lists among the other things that we're doing. So we try and touch base with them once a quarter on top of the cards. And then, we've done, kind of Brandon mentioned some client appreciation events. So we've tried to be consistent. The pandemic has made that a little bit harder. But what we did back in July was we actually rented a drive-in movie theater. So people could still go and be in their car. They don't have to be right next to anybody, and then, try to go and, communicate with them. We actually did it as a toy drive. And we actually rented Santa, and so Santa greeted people as they came into the movie theater. And we asked our sphere of influence to bring in toys, and we actually wound up with over 100 toys that we were able to take to one of the local Children's Miracle Hospitals locally, which was really cool. And people like that giving back. We actually had people that came to the drive-in that, were just showing up and didn't know there was a private event, and they actually left and went and got toys and came back. We had a couple of them. I thought that was pretty amazing, because we were like, come on in and just have fun.
No, that's fantastic. And the message we wanted to, obviously we want you to learn about First. We want you to succeed with First is the main message, but also too, it's not meant to completely take the place of any other efforts that you're doing to generate seller leads, and to stay in touch with your sphere. Those things are really important. You have to maintain that human connection now more than ever, because we can't all be together. So Reed, those are really great things. Let's shift gears for a minute. So Brandon, we'll start with you. If someone was brand new to real estate, where can First and how can First help them to get started?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the biggest challenges for new agents is putting together a database. And so I've had team members, I've helped mentor some people that are fellow alumni as well. And that's kind of the big starting point. If you can't master your database, then you're not going to have success anywhere else. And even the top agents, majority of their business is their sphere of influence. So that's where First comes in place. So taking all your contacts that are in your phone, your email, you're going to find a lot of people that you would have forgotten if you just kind of tried to make a list yourself or started from scratch. And so that's a really good jumping off point. They can use the app, prioritize their follow-up and just sort their database as long as they're using it in a consistent manner.
Great. How about you, Reed?
Well, the first thing that we've done with our buyer's agents is very similar to what he's doing, is we create that top 50 list of 50 people you think will send you business. We also have them, we want 100 addresses from contacts or people that they know. At that point, it may not be somebody they'd be willing to go up and talk to, but if you know, like track down at least 100 addresses, and we send out, note cards or postcards to those people saying, hey, I've changed careers and this is what I'm doing, be happy to help in the future, or somebody that you know. And then just start having those intentional conversations. The other thing that we try, getting them in front of as many people as possible. So lots of agents don't like doing open houses, and they're a great way to meet buyers because they literally come to you. So we try and get them into open houses as much as possible. And it doesn't just have to be on a Sunday. Our agents are doing Thursdays and Sundays as often as possible. I know a lot of people are like, well, we don't have to do an open house because, the listing's selling so quickly. Once again, we've tried to ask our sellers like, hey, can you be patient? Let us do this because we generate more activity and get more people through your home. And so we've done that with a tremendous amount of success. We've had open houses that have had anywhere from, 8 to 20 groups come in, and our buyer's agents are like, I had a hard time keeping track of everyone. We try and slow them down to where we only have 1 or 2 groups at a house, inside the house at any given time, with the virus and stuff. So trying to be respectful of the social distancing guidelines. And that's gone over really well. And also by limiting the number of people, you get to have a more intentional conversation with those buyers. The other thing that we've encouraged our agents to do is, it's very easy if you're asking if they have an agent. A lot of times they'll just say yes because they don't want to talk to you. But the next question that you need to ask is, what's your agent's name? And it's amazing how many people, stumble there. Well, if they don't know their agent's name, then are they really working with somebody? So that gives you an opportunity to continue to follow up with those people. But if they do, then, hey, it's a great agent, they'll take good care of you. We try not to step on any toes, but, asking some additional questions has helped.
That's great advice from both of you for those that are new to the business. So we have a question from Luana in Indiana. Hi, Luana. Can you delete people versus hide them so they do not count against your 5,000 allowed? I think that one's for Brandon, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Just hit the trash button. Little trash icon.
Button right next to the contact. Okay. That was easy. All right. I'm scanning to see if there's any other comments.
You can go over 5,000 too. There's a fee or something like that. They just had to have a limit so people weren't just pulling CSV files from the MLS or from some source and then dumping it in, which is definitely what happened early on because people were trying to use it for farming. It's not good for farming. I tried it. I tested it. Don't do it. Just use it for your relationships.
Yes, for sure. There's a question on Facebook from Carlene. Hi, Carlene. She wants to know for both of you which CRM that you use. We'll start with you, Reed.
So I use a CRM called RealVolve. Actually, recently got it added as one of the approved suppliers through Remax. We've had really good success with it. Boosh seemed to work really well for a single agent or a single agent and an admin, and we needed something that was a little bit more robust, and that's why we made that switch.
Okay, Brandon.
So I missed Contactually dearly. It was my favorite. I was diehard with a raving fan. First, I just saw the question come through. First is not a replacement for your CRM. Absolutely do not try to use it as a CRM. There's no way to log I mean, you can log things, but it's not automated. It doesn't have the rule-based follow-up that you would get in any other CRM. You can't do things with leads. You can't do things across the teams. So don't try to use it as a CRM. You'll be frustrated. You can't send messages directly through. Anyways, it's a great product. It's almost like a light CRM. But personally now, since we lost Contactually, we've moved over to Tribus. Pretty happy with it. There's still some features I wish we had from Contactually, and so I've been giving Eric a hard time and pushing to get those implemented. Otherwise, we did look at other CRMs, and I really like RealVolve is good, and then I'm drawing a blank. The one that Chris Smith pushes really hard. It'll come back to me.
Yeah, I would look at the first, when they asked that question about this versus CRM, I would look at it more as like lead incubation. You know, it's a place where you can kind of keep them and continue to follow up with them. And then at some point, once you get to a certain point, then I would move them into a CRM as more that follow-up. But I would classify it more as like lead incubation for the time being.
Great advice. And honestly, it's a way, it's going to help you stay in touch with your database. And that's something that you're all challenged with. That there's only 24 hours in a day, and you can't always get to everyone, but it's just going to keep those that are likely to move right in front of you and front and center, so that you can be front and center with them. So we're going to start wrapping it up. If there's any last questions, please ask away. But in the meantime, let's bring this home. So Brandon, what would be your final words of advice to those that are still skeptical about FIRST and if they should do it, and any other tips that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, you're getting 3 months for free. You might as well try it. And then at $39 a month, it's a no-brainer. It's probably one of the highest return on investment things we have right now. I personally probably add 3-4 deals a year because of it. I wouldn't say it's a silver bullet by any means. You're going to need to do work. And if you don't already have a CRM and you're not already following up, I would start there before jumping into this. Otherwise, you're just going to be overwhelmed with notifications and it won't be relevant for you. So you really need to use it to get the advantage.
Awesome. Reed, how about you?
It's like you said, I think the best way to look at it is the return on investment that you can get from it, or at least that's our expectation. I'm not far enough in it. We've only been working it for about 30 days. But at that cost, even if you're doing it for a year and it's, less than, $39 a month, or, a little less than $500 a year, you get up 2 or 3 transactions out of it, and you're getting a, 4 to 6x return on your investment. It's hard to beat. There aren't many programs that you can get those types of returns. And I believe if you continue to do it well and master it, you can very, very rarely get higher returns on it than that. So that's certainly.
We've been averaging 20 times return on investment.
Yeah.
Since the inception. And that includes when we were paying premium prices. So.
Yeah.
That's great. No, I really appreciate that. There's just one question that just came in. Why do some contacts show up multiple times? I think in the one instance, it was because she was in a condo building and she kept showing up. But would there be any other reasons that you're aware of, Brandon or Reed?
Yeah, so in that screenshot, I was looking at missed sales, and that's the only reason that person came up multiple times. But if you're talking about it on the top of your screen, where you're getting the curated suggestions, that would be because you've fallen behind on your follow-up, and so it's actually got multiple days worth of recommendations for you. And so the way the system works is it's kicking out those recommendations. The next day it kicks out more recommendations. And when you hide it, then in the future, that person won't be recommended again. But if they already were recommended and you hadn't gotten around to responding to it, it's still there. And I agree 100%, because that is one of the things I said to them right away. I was like, hey man, I already hit this person. Why is it coming back up again? And they explained that to me. So that is the reason.
Okay, so it looks like we're getting some believers. Andy, I'm glad to see. He says it's starting to make sense now. Where do I get FIRST? Go to Mac Center. There's an app in the app section of Mac Center. Just click on it and all the information is there on how to get started and how to sign up. You can download the app on your mobile device and start from there too, but I would definitely go into Max Center and learn more about it. Just so you know, the RE/MAX LLC technology team does an amazing job. They're having regular webinars. There's a whole section in RE/MAX University dedicated to FIRST. So if you want to watch some videos or past webinars to get even more in depth into the product, you please do. I encourage you to do so. Like Brandon and Reed said, guys, this is free for 90 days. I mean, you can't go wrong. And then the return is going to save you hours and hours of mailing postcards or contacting people by phone. It's just going to really all come together for you, which is great. So I really appreciate everyone's time and attention. Thank you so much. And thank you to Reed and Brandon. Please find them on Max Center. Think about them for referrals. For Reed, he's in Southern Indiana, Louisville, Kentucky area. Brandon's in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and Minnesota. So thank you so much, everyone. Signing off from RE/MAX INTEGRA. Have a wonderful day. We will be back same time, same place next week. We're going to talk all about marketing your listings and some cool tools to do that. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.